story what happened in Chicago. Unfortunately, folks, I will say this. The people who do show up, I'm all for their right to assemble, their First Amendment right. But I would have to say this was the most lackluster, mediocre, pathetic showing in front of Trump Tower. I've never seen anything so sad. And the fact that it's one of the go-to points where people go to protest against Donald Trump says a lot. There were a couple of people, activists, organizers, some politicians there as well, speaking out against Trump. But if that is just even a fraction of the resistance, it leaves much to be desired. Now, I don't know if Trump is really going to have follow through in regards to actually implementing his policies of coming into Chicago as a National Guard, the increase of ICE. But as I said before, sounding like a broken record, in February, ICE came in here and ran with impunity, detaining migrants. No one from the Chicago political establishment, no one from the CPD, no agency here in Chicago did anything to stop that rounding up, okay? Dr. Phil was here too, was Tom Homan, and they were able to do whatever they want, and they did it. They succeeded in February, and nothing happened. So there's a very good chance that the click, copy, paste, and repeat of coming here to Chicago and doing what they want could happen again. Now, Mayor Brandon Johnson has signed an executive order, but that executive order still, how are you going to enforce it? What actions will we see? So in turn, other people have pointed out, well, Kit, there were other protests. Yes, there were other protests. There were. And people were meeting up also at Haymarket Square. But if this is it, again, this was the more larger protest that was taking place where at least maybe around 2,000 people did show up, maybe a little bit higher than that. Still, and I want to give a shout out to Chicago Goofies for at least filming this. All right, now here's the thing. That chant of "if we don't get it, shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down." That's great. What do you want? And if you don't get it, are you really going to shut it down? I remember when the 3-day General Strike Summit meeting was set up way back in 2021, when there's calls for a general strike. Well, it can happen if people do organize and actually have that follow through of doing a general strike. But the thing is, it's a matter of the leadership of these organizations and whether or not they're actually going to pull the trigger. And when I say pull the trigger, I mean pull the trigger. Otherwise, quit saying, like, if you don't get it, we're going to shut it down. That's where the organizations and leaders, I really have to challenge it sometimes, I really have to look at some of these activist groups or even at some of their leadership and wonder, do you have the real balls? Do you have the backbone, the soul, the spine, the heart to actually do that? Now, all these protests that were supposed to be happening, they look like anything else I've seen before from 2016 to 2020. Now, granted, of course, in 2020, many of those protests did erupt. All right, things did get a little bit out of hand there, to quote a line from the Anchorman. But it looked like everything I've seen before, from the small one that I covered at Trump Tower to this one here that was happening in the middle of downtown Chicago. It looks the same. If you don't get it, shut it down. If you don't get it, shut it down. Well, then, all right, fine. You did the protest. Now nobody show up. I'm seeing the Chicago Teachers Union there. All right, do the strike, do the sit out, and organize it on a national level. Like, stop wasting our time by doing this protest and thinking that, oh, no, Trump sees a protest, he's not going to deploy the National Guard. No, he's going to do it. It's always a play-by-play, same thing over and over again that you see from liberal Democrats and some of these activist groups. You do all this talk, you put on this big show, and then when you got to pull the trigger, when you finally got to push the red button, you don't do it. You don't do it. My God, I actually saw a couple of people in the place where I covered. Yeah, they had Kamala. They had the Kamala Mamala stuff. All right. So I saw some people that actually did buy the gear, that bought the equipment from Kamala's website. I never thought I'd say it. It was not on my bingo card. And of course, impeach, remove Trump. Impeach Trump. Because Trump, we got to impeach him and then everything's good. Oh, God. Yes, because that sign's going to stop the National Guard tanks and light armored vehicles and Humvees from entering the city. And look, I don't want the National Guard or ICE in my city, but Jesus Christ, it's almost like you're begging to get punched in the mouth and have them do it. Eat the rich, kill the king, shut the F up about Chicago. No troops in Chicago, no tyrants, no kings, no nothing. And to quote Jamie Teisel, so much wasted political energy. And it is wasted political energy. I get doing a protest and it better be organized and large and make a statement, but then everyone who participated in that event should then participate with the next step. And that is, if this is going to be a whole coordinated nationwide thing to protest Trump, workers over billionaires, then the workers then need to shut it down. Okay, I know it's Labor Day, but look, Labor Day is going to be nothing if your leaders aren't going to lead you, okay? You know, I actually heard a couple of people as, you know, I was inside the crowd filming, and as I was crossing the bridge, I heard one guy mutter, you know, for a bunch of people who are protesting on Labor Day, I don't know how many of them really actually have a job, you know. And you know, hey, that was kind of funny that the guy muttered that to himself. I was able to hear it, but I was like, you know, because for all we know, that could have been their day off. But you know, seriously, for the activists and organizers, people are looking at you like clowns. Yes, people will honk their horns. Yes, people will cheer and blow a whistle and say, yeah, woo, across the street or whatever. But this is all performative art now at this point. If your leaders won't lead you to do the next step, why even bother to show up? I mean, is it to make you feel good, to be part of a community? Because if this is what's needed to resist Trump, don't call yourself the rebellion, because anytime I see Star Wars rebellion insignia, I'm thinking, oh my God, you're just cosplaying. Because when push comes to shove, you are not going to be like Andor. You're not going to be like Luke Skywalker. You're not going to do it. Because in order to really make change, that means you have to make a personal sacrifice. How do you think we got Labor Day? You think the people who were actually fighting for that, you know, did a little sign, blow a whistle, do some chants? No, a lot of them got their heads kicked in. Some of them didn't come home alive. Did you know that there were like secret police that companies would hire and round people up and beat them up, or either that make them disappear? Any of you willing to put your bodies on the line for that? Because that's what's going to be needed. Sorry about that. And that also means not showing up to the factory, the warehouse. Just throwing it out there. Am I a bad guy for saying this out loud? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Because you know what? It's not fair for me. It's not fair for me to tell organizers and activists what to do because, you know, I'm sitting here being an armchair general. But after covering this stuff for 8 years, you know, and seeing political movements come and go, disappear like a fart in the wind, I just can't help but start losing more and more respect. And I remember all the interviews that we used to do, you know, and it's just like shining a light, you know, hey, what good are you guys doing? And listen, there are activists out there that are doing great work. You know, Misty Winston, she's one of the dauntless few. All right. I've seen her do great work. All right. She is one of them that I know that when push comes to shove, she will put her whole body and soul into it and actually lead people to get a mission done. All right. I've seen mutual aid groups that are with RBN get the mission done. I've seen this before. But the groups of activists that have done great things and finished the job, they're few and far between versus the vast majority of cosplayers that are there just because they have Trump derangement syndrome. You do realize that if Donald Trump does disappear one day, the problem doesn't go away. The neoliberal, neoconservative, two-party Democrat-Republican system still stands. And you know, all this fear about King Trump, okay, what if that doesn't happen? What if we get a politician that's far more competent and chooses to remain a king? Did you ever think about that? Again, people aren't thinking about that. So a little bit more on this is from local news here in Chicago.
Brandon Johnson, union leaders, and hundreds of others rallied in the West Loop to protest President Trump's policies.
WGN's Sean Lewis was at the rally and has the story.
Good evening. Thousands of people marching through the streets of Chicago on this Labor Day, standing up, they say, against billionaires being propped up, in their words, by the current administration. At the base of the Haymarket Memorial in West Loop, more than 1,000 gathered.
The people who are part of that are rolling in their graves, wondering, this is what we gave, this is what we sacrificed ourselves for. Oof. To quote Saruman to the king of Rohan, you are a lesser king of far greater sires.
Celebrating America's labor movement.
Unions are the backbone of this nation, not billionaires.
Chicago's Haymarket riot in 1886 stands as a seminal moment in the fight for workers' rights in the United States.
You are the true patriots. Celebrate yourselves on Labor Day.
Today, those here say those rights are under attack.
Everybody is out here to say
they have been under attack by Democrats too. Don't let City Hall, don't let Illinois politicians, don't let any Democrat in any state or whatever district they're serving in get away with it, because they've been doing it too. It's been a back and forth, two-way street. Democrat and Republican politicians have been doing it. Just because Trump's in office and he's an easy cartoon villain doesn't give you the excuse of now, oh yeah, now you're going to show up. Because what? You want to impress somebody? You want to boost up your Tinder profile? Yeah, good luck. That's, those relationships never last long anyways.
that we are going to fight for workers' rights so that they can take care of their families, so that they can make a living wage.
The crowd marching past Valor Equity, run by Chicago billionaire Antonio Gracias, a Target store, as well as a Tesla showroom.
We must demand a better life for all workers. One job should be enough.
When unions are under attack, what do?
But hold on, I don't want to be the bad guy here. In 3, 2, 1, what happens when union leadership doesn't listen to its to the rest of its base? Remember way back in 2016 when a lot of union organizers wanted to support Bernie Sanders, but yet the leadership of said organization said, no, we're going to back up Hillary. Remember those stories? I do. Oh, you better believe I do. And so does Petrid Farms, too.
The group ending outside of Trump Tower as the city looks.
Oh, God, I was there. Oh, I wonder if we'll see me. Let's see. Do we see Kit Cabello? Do we see? Listen, because there was a point when they were starting to form up. I was actually across the river psyching myself up like, come on, Kit, you could do this. You promised your viewers you were going to cover the protest. And I was thinking, like, I promised so many people. And so many people even messaged me, okay? I had some people message me and say, hey, Kit, please be careful. There might be violence. And you know what? For the people who did that, thank you. But don't worry, you overshot it. There was no violence. There was no violence. Everything was calm and smooth, okay? But yeah, I was there. I was there at Trump Tower. I was actually even talking to people at Trump Security. They were like, one guy said, I don't want to see those people across the river. It was funny.
The imminent possibility of federal forces being sent in by the president.
We have stood up for the interests of workers before, and we will do it again.
Oh, God, Mayor 6.6%.
And no matter what comes from the White House, Chicago will always be a labor town. Are you with me, Chicago?
And the mayor's office also telling us that they plan on addressing those possible federal forces in Chicago starting tomorrow. That's the latest here in the West Loop tonight.
So it's going to happen tomorrow, maybe. Okay, great. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen tomorrow. And you know what? Here's the thing. We got to talk about what's happening in Chicago, okay? Because I'm not going to sugarcoat it because, and I mentioned this on a few previous live streams, about violence in the city. Yes, there's violence in Chicago, okay? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yes, the city has violence. There's violence on the south side, on the west side, on the north side, all over Chicago. Now, there are good people who are trying to preserve their communities and end the violence, okay? You know, there's a lot of people who are trying to do good things, but the thing is, I don't want to say that the media is putting more blood in the water so that it could be a feeding frenzy for Trump and his administration to jump at coming into Chicago, but this is evidence enough of the trouble that is coming our way. 54 shot, 7 killed in Chicago weekend bloodbath after Pritzker claims Trump and National Guard are not needed. Again, I would not say that this is the fuel necessary to bring in the National Guard, but that little snowball that fell off the mountain is now rolling into a larger ball, to which it's, oh no, an avalanche is going to be coming our way. So bodies are piling up on the streets of Chicago over Labor Day weekend with 54 shot, including 7 killed as President Trump and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker spar over sending the National Guard into the Windy City. It might very well happen, and Hardlands media will be on the ground to talk about it. At least 32 separate shootings occurred in Chicago between Friday evening and noon on Monday, according to a review of police incident reports by ABC News. Just hours after Trump posted a message on Truth Social on Saturday criticizing Pritzker's handling of crime in the city, at least 7 people were shot around 11:10 p.m. in Bronzeville. All of the people are expected to be okay. Again, very tragic. Trump called the governor weak and pathetic, that being J.B. Pritzker, and dismissing the need for a National Guard presence in the Windy City in the social media post. The president further warned we're coming, suggesting some of federal action on crime in Chicago if Pritzker doesn't straighten it out fast. National Guard troops or any kind of troops in the streets of an American city don't belong unless there's an insurrection, unless there's truly an emergency, and there is not. Somebody's talking about me 4 times in a row. Who's talking about me? I know it's an old little legend, you know. Someone's talking about you, you sneeze. So, and that was Pritzker saying of the situation in Chicago. He also vowed to sue Trump and his administration if troops are indeed deployed. Always with the lawsuits. It never ends. It's an invasion with U.S. troops. If they, in fact, do that, Pritzker argued, they'll be in court pretty quickly, he added. So you're going to put the Trump administration into court. Okay. Did Democrats not pay attention in 2024 when Trump pretty much farted his way out of all that legal nightmare? And look, hey, not a fan of the Democrat or Republican Party, but all that legal bullshit that Trump was going through in 2024, I sympathize with him, okay? It was all BS and a waste of time and it achieved nothing. And you know what? I warned people. I said, you better hope your I's are all dotted and your T's are all crossed, because if they're not, he's going to come at you and it's right up the wazoo for all of you. And I was proven correct about that. And I'm going to be a prick about it till the day I die. Mayor Brandon Johnson also ended his speech at Workers Over Billionaires March on Monday with a rallying cry of no troops in Chicago, invest in Chicago. Well, yeah, we're going to need some investment in Chicago, Mayor, 6.6%, because we're $1.1 billion in the hole. Chicago had 573 murders in 2024 compared to 377 for New York City and 268 for Los Angeles. Chicago murder rate was about 22 killings per 100,000 people compared with 7 for LA and less than 5 for New York City. That's still lower than some major cities, including Detroit, 32, Washington, D.C., 27, and Atlanta, 25. Trump deployed thousands of federal agents and National Guard troops to Washington, D.C. earlier this month as a part of a sweeping crime crackdown, and also displacing the homeless, which also the city of Chicago did when the DNC convention was coming here way back in 2024 in August. Yeah, it was last year ago. What a charming era. Since the president declared a crime emergency in the nation's capital, violent crime has fallen by 45% and carjackings are down by a stunning 87% when compared with the same period in 2024, D.C. Democrat Mayor Muriel Bowser said earlier this week. In June, Trump dispatched 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marine service members to California amid violent anti-ICE riots in Los Angeles. If there are going to be any anti-ICE riots, I don't see Chicago causing any problems or Chicagoans causing any problems. It seems to me that the organizers and leaders have their people on a chain. I don't see them doing anything. So any kind of hype or talk about being a resistance, when the leaders fail to lead, when the leaders fail to inspire, their forces won't do anything either. I saw people doing dancing and singing, performative art, carrying the signs, but that's about it. Listen, if you want to be like the people in the Haymarket Square, you got to show. You got to show that you're going to fight. You got to show that you're willing to put your life on the line. You got to show that you actually care about your labor. Because otherwise, when people talk about labor and workers' rights and they don't follow through with it, I call BS on them. Because you don't believe in labor or workers' rights. Yes, I'm calling out those people who don't believe in what they preach. So if you're not going to have any follow through, you know, who taught you that? Probably your leaders. You know, it's easy for everyone to grab a sign and do a glorified parade, be part of one of those glorified parades and not fight back. But show me what you're going to do. Otherwise, it's BS.
Yeah, Marie, instead of spending this Labor Day holiday at a backyard barbecue, hundreds of protesters flocked to the West Loop to express their anger and their concern over the threat of federal troops in Chicago.
This country was created in protest and in resistance to fight off a king, not to recreate a king.
The Labor Day rally was originally billed as a call to action, a protest.
This Labor Day is a day of action
Against what organizers call the Trump administration's attacks on undocumented immigrants, government agencies, federal programs, and American workers.
If you mess with our workers, you mess with America.
It became that and more because of this.
They need help badly. Chicago desperately needs help. Just look at the crime statistics.
No federal troops in the city of Chicago.
The message to the Trump administration was loud and clear from the city's mayor.
No militarized force in the city of Chicago. We're going to defend our democracy in the city of Chicago.
Scattered throughout the crowd, signs underscoring the message and people voicing their anger, like Northsider Terry McCassell.
I do not want a government takeover, a military takeover of Chicago, the third.
Oh, God. God, there were so many people like that there. I'm having some flashbacks just a few hours ago. So many people saying, "Oh, we don't want Trump. We don't want Trump. We don't want." Like, I know I don't want Trump in the city either. But if you guys are going to be resisting him, hey, look, world's most one-sided fist fight caught on film.
Largest city in the country.
Friends from the South Side and Evanston shared similar views.
We're not at war. We don't need the troops here.
What he's trying to do is create fear. He's trying to start martial law. He's trying to start the process. And Chicago, we're not here. We're not going to stand for that.
While the Trump administration has not provided details on a deployment of troops to Chicago,
This is what community looks like.
rally organizers say the threat is prompting some action.
It's important for people to make sure that they know their rights. There's been trainings all over the city.
Ryder says the training is mostly aimed at undocumented immigrants.
Especially when it comes to detaining people, that there's legal authority to detain folks, that they're not submitting themselves to administrative warrants.
Now, organizers say that if the troops come to Chicago, the protesters are ready to do this again.
Oh, God. Oh, God. You know, I got way too much stuff on my plate right now. Where's Louis Farrakhan when you need him? You know, yeah, definitely. Where is he at? Where the hell are you at, man? I mean, come on. Where's Malcolm X when you need him? Okay, that's what I want to know. So, what's the takeaway? None of that was intimidating. None of that showed any kind of fire and fury in Chicago. It looked like an atypical Democrat rally, a latte drinking liberal rally. How many of those people are actually prepared to be arrested in mass? How many of those people are actually prepared, I don't know, to really stand their ground? Okay. Because look, I saw, God, I'm gonna go to hell for this. You know, no matter what happens to me, somebody carry on my legacy. No matter what happens to Kit Cabello, please carry on my legacy. But I'm going to hell for this in 3, 2, 1. You know, I saw some senior citizens there, and I saw some people who were, you know, physically disabled. Okay, and you know, up against the Chicago Police Department, ICE, or the National Guard, it's they're gonna get manhandled, man. It's gonna be a disaster. Okay, like originally, you know, I thought that the protest, at least the one that was gonna come to Trump Tower, was gonna be a little bit larger because I had this perfect bird's eye view. I had this perfect, nice bird's eye view of the protest. I managed to wheel and deal my way in there. You know, I managed to, you know, talk to people like, hey, yeah, I got this perfect shot. It was gonna be gold. It's gonna be gold, my friends. Gold, pure gold. And then I saw just how big the size of it was. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I was hearing about the other protests, and they're doing performative art and dancing and singing. And I'm thinking, oh no. Oh no. So I got up from my little roost, got to set the live stream, and I went to walk amongst the crowd. And it's everything that I've mocked about the activists and the downfall of the social justice warrior groups here in Chicago. I mean, honestly, I don't know what to... If anyone's really expecting a La Resistance here in the city, or if that's all a secret front to it, fine. But if this is what you could mobilize, especially on Labor Day, how many of these people are also going to show up every day? Because that's another thing I want to say to these activists and organizers. Are you going to show up day after day, day after day, day after day, day after day? Because again, you know, when you hear the chants, if we don't get it, shut it down. Well, then your leaders got to tell you to shut it down. Okay, to all the union groups, to all the labor groups. If your leaders aren't going to lead, then why are you there? Unless you're just doing it to make yourselves feel better. Because I'm willing to bet once the National Guard comes in, at least half these people are still going to go to work. Because at the end of the day, one thing I've learned about a lot of these protests and activist groups here in Chicago, majority of them don't believe what they say. Or is it that they pretend to do it? I challenge their authenticity. I challenge its very existence. But what I saw there and what was being presented and what's being shared on social media, if that's the best y'all got, you have failed not only the past generations that literally put their lives on the line, you will damn the future generations that will look at you with contempt.